Three, two, one, roll the footage. Welcome back, everybody, to the Strategy Sprints podcast. I'm your host, Severino. And my guest today is the CEO of Consulting Success, where they specialize in helping entrepreneurial consultants grow profitable, predictable, and strategic consulting businesses. He has advised the Financial Times, Dow Jones, RBC, and helped Panasonic launch new products into global markets. He has helped over 500 consultants from around the world in over 75 industries. Author of Amazon bestsellers, Act Now, The Elite Consulting Mind, Consulting Success, and his next book coming up, The Future of Consulting, will be published this April. Welcome, everybody. Michael Zipursky.
Hey, Simon, great to be with you. Thanks for having me.
So cool to have you here. And everybody who has a consulting business right now, this is relevant. We are going to talk ROI, and we are going to talk how you can be less of working as a business operator and more of the business owner that you are and that you started out to be in the first place. So, Michael, what are you currently creating?
Yeah, you hit on it in the introduction, so thank you very much for that. But we've had over 500 consultants, come through our Clarity coaching program, and that's really focusing on helping them to build profitable and scalable and strategic consulting business. And we just recently released what we call the Consulting Success Framework, which is a distillation of everything that we've seen working, in the consulting business over a couple of decades now, but really updated for what's working best right now. And we've been sharing that with our clients. So we've got that out. We've also been bringing on new coaches to support our clients, new templates, new systems. We continue to really build our team. So that's where my focus is right now.
Cool. And let's dive directly into your CEO tips. So how do we get from operator to owner if we run a consulting business?
Yeah, I think this is a big challenge or a top of mind issue for many entrepreneurs, even outside of the world of consulting. But so often we are so focused on building the business, and we're involved in the business in every aspect of it as owners. And I think that one of the opportunities and realizations that the entrepreneur will have at some stage is, you know what, I'm actually the roadblock. I'm trying to do too many things myself. And we trick ourselves in thinking that, well, I can do it faster than someone else. And I can, the time that it'll take me to train somebody and find them and get them up to speed, I can just do it faster myself. I can save money by doing it myself. But that's really the roadblock that holds a lot of people back from making a lot more progress and success. And so I think that, again, there's a lot of different models for people to and paths to go down. There's no one way to build a business. But for most people, if you want to achieve greater scale, if you want to have greater impact, if you want to be able to create more freedom for yourself, then it's going to involve building a team. It's going to involve getting other people involved. It's going to require that you put better systems and processes in place. And that really then gets you focused on building the business. But you can't do that if you are the one that the operations are connected to. And if you at all plan to sell your business in the future, you will actually receive a lower value if the business requires you. And so if you can put better systems, better processes, better team in place, then not only will you create more freedom for yourself, not only will you have a business that runs more smoothly, but you'll actually have a higher value of business or a greater value of business that you can then sell if that is, something that you are thinking about for the future.
And you did both yourself. You were the founder of your company. You run it right now. How was your transition? How many years did it take?
Yeah, so I'm still in the transition, right? So I've built and sold multiple companies over my last 21 years of being kind of in the consulting world. Every business except for two was a services business, a consulting related business. A couple of others were online businesses, but were not in that space. And I certainly learned those lessons, sometimes the hard way, where I waited a lot longer. I told myself, let's wait until I get one more client, or wait until the revenue goes up a little bit higher before we bring on someone else, or before we put this, these new kind of practices in place. And I also used to think that systems were something that only bigger businesses needed, that it wasn't required for if you just have a very small team or if it's just yourself. But the more that I've really gone down that path and we've been building our team, the more that you actually start seeing that systems actually create more freedom. They don't hold you back, and they're not only for big businesses. They're just for businesses that you want to grow and be able to create more process and productization around.
My favorite episode of the Tim Ferriss show that I heard in the last weeks was the one with Jerry Seinfeld.
Oh, I love it. I listened to it as well. Yeah.
Because I'm such a Seinfeld fan and such a Tim Ferriss fan, so I had to hear the episode. But what struck me about that episode is Seinfeld is full of systems. Whatever he does, he has a system for meditation, system for writing, system for speaking. He's full of systems, and the whole craft and all of his magic is based on systems. And he's just a one-man show, a powerful show, but one man.
No, I think it's a really great point that you're bringing up, Simon, and it's actually something that I've been thinking about myself when I listened to that episode. Another great one, I don't know if it was with Tim Ferriss, but I listened to an interview with Kevin Hart not too long ago, another really great comedian. And I think when a lot of people look at comedians like Kevin Hart, Jerry Seinfeld, they look at athletes, they look at entrepreneurs, they see kind of the end result, or they see the current state of success. And what they don't realize is that in order to get to those places, like, of course, Seinfeld is funny, but he also got to where he is today, and he got to that level because he had systems. He did a lot of practicing, and just the amount of and the way of that both Jerry Seinfeld, and Kevin Hart break down how they think about telling a joke, and they look for the reaction. They go back and they test it, and they cut things. These are, I think, a lot of examples that people don't notice. They just look at, oh, like that was a great joke. They're so funny, but they don't really know what goes into it. And in the entrepreneurial world, it's very similar. It's not just about the success that somebody has had. It's what are the pieces that they've put in place? What are the processes, the systems, the way that they've expanded their mindset or looked at things from different perspectives and then acted on them and made changes that ultimately influence the success that they're having today.
Absolutely. I'm so curious who you pick for the Strategy Award after one word from our sponsors.
Hey, if you love what you are hearing, you will love our free masterclasses. Go grab them at strategysprints.com.
All right, so you want the Strategy Award. I was thinking about this, and I would nominate Martin Lindstrom. He's written several books. And I remember one conversation that I had with Martin, actually, when he was on our podcast, the Consulting Success podcast. He was I believe he was in the UAE or somewhere in the region. And he was telling me stories about how he was actually spending time going into regular, citizens' homes to learn more about their behavior, to learn about how they made decisions, how they thought, how they interacted. So in order for him to advise his clients, and he has different large organizations and government clients, he really would go off the grid. He would not take a cell phone with him. He would just fully immerse himself into the environment, and he would look and listen to what was going on. And I think that's something that's missed by a lot of people these days, that we are always with our phones, even when we're watching movies sometimes or doing crazy things like this that we couldn't imagine 10 years ago. And I think he's a great example of somebody who can really achieve quiet and focus on the right things to create great results in a way that others may not come at it.
Absolutely. And back to your main CEO tip, how we get out of the weeds and into working on the business of our business, because this is so relevant. I am out of fulfillment since January of last year, so a little bit more than 1 year I am out of my business. And still, I'm not out of the business. I'm out of fulfillment of the core operations. Right. Still, there is so much to do: joint ventures, growth stuff, working on form, fit, and function of sales. There is still so much to do. Now, I cannot imagine if I would have stayed in fulfillment right now, I would have been completely burned out or no growth. So let's go back and help people who are doing everything, how to bit by bit get out of the weeds.
Can I offer a kind of a suggestion or exercise I've given to clients? Would that be okay?
Absolutely.
So one thing that I would suggest that people do is to track, almost create an inventory list of everything that you do in the business from start to finish. So from your marketing or advertising to your sales calls and sales process, to how you go about fulfillment or delivery, to client interactions, to invoice, to billing. I mean, everything start to finish. Just track what you are doing, or what, if you have team members, what your team members are doing on a daily basis, and do that for a week or two. And you might be able to sit down, as brainstorm, and get it all on paper, in an hour. But really think about it again from a very comprehensive list. The next step is to create a couple of columns. And in those columns, what you want to do is you want to first look at every item on that list. And when you want to ask yourself, which items truly do you need to be involved in? And sometimes, our egos will get the best of us, where we'll say, no, like only I can do this. But really challenge yourself. Like, is it only you that could do it? Or if you brought someone on that you were paying them $50 an hour or whatever, maybe it's even less. You can find great people, right, from $15, $20 an hour to $50 an hour. You can bring really skilled people to help you. And so you want to go through that list and mark down what are the items that you truly believe you add the highest level of value that you need to be involved in. And then what you want to do is the other columns, you want to start checking off or assigning each of those items to another column, and try to group things together. So for example, you're spending time right now formatting PowerPoint or keynote presentations for clients. Well, that's something that a business owner should not be doing. Or maybe you are updating the design or some text on your website. Again, that is something that you should not be doing. Or maybe you're spending time on social media, posting graphics. Again, probably something you should not be doing yourself. Well, those things you could likely group into one type of admin or designer related role, or someone that has that ability. Another one might be around booking meetings or sending invoices, things of that nature. That could be a straight administrative type of role. Another might be about delivery. And so you go through, and what you then want to have is assigning each of these items to a different person on your existing team or on your potential team in the future. And then what you want to do once you've done that is now start to go out, develop job descriptions for each one of those groupings, and begin trying to find those people. And the one thing I just want to share is, I know some people have a hesitation around that, and they say, well, yeah, I don't want to spend $50 an hour to bring somebody on who could, that's money out of my pocket. Well, what I want people to just think about is, what is your hourly value? Now, I hope that you're not charging on an hourly basis. That's something that we definitely counsel and recommend that our clients avoid as much as possible. But just think about, what is your value per hour if you were to break it down, on an hourly basis. And let's say that it's $250 per hour. Maybe it's significantly more, maybe it's a bit less, but let's say it's $250 an hour. Well, if that's the case, every hour that you are doing a lower value task, something that you could get someone else to do for $50 an hour or less, you're actually losing $200 an hour. And so when you see that, then you don't look at these things as expenses, right? You look at it as an investment. The sooner that you can bring people on to take over more of what you're doing that is low value, not only will it actually help you to make more money, because you will then be able to shift from low value to higher value focused work or production that creates greater value and revenue, but you're also now creating more freedom. And at the end of the day, that is the greatest asset that we all have. I mean, that's our scarcest resource. We can't create more time. And so being able to bring someone in that can actually help to free you up to spend that time with your family, with other loved ones, hobbies, or in other high value areas of work in the business, I think that's a great opportunity for many people.
It's funny how we start our businesses to be free, and then the business starts sucking us in. And I remember the first year, the revenue was quite good. We did $500,000 in the first year, and everybody was like, wow, Simon, you're crushing it. I was like, I'm miserable. I didn't see my wife since weeks because I'm in planes all the time.
Yeah.
We are pregnant. I will not see my kids if this is going to go further. And so there is this equation of why do we do it? And one thing is freedom, one is impact. And to find the right balance. Sometimes it's even better to stay at the same amount of revenue and of growth, but to have time again. And that comes with systems.
Can I offer one other suggestion or just kind of exercise of thought for people? Do we have time for that?
Sure.
So I think a lot of people, and I certainly was guilty of this, early on in my career. We tend to, if you imagine a triangle, at the top of the triangle, we tend to put our business, right? That is the peak, that is the top, that is where all of our focus should be. And then what we do is we put our lifestyle or the rest of our lives on the bottom. right? And of the pyramid or of the triangle. And so then what we need to do is we're asking ourselves to make sacrifices at our lifestyle level around our health, our wellness, our mindset, our family time, all that relationships. We have to make sacrifices because we put the business at the top of the triangle. And what I've found to be helpful, and I would just offer as an observation and suggestion for people, is to consider what would it look like if you put your lifestyle at the top of that triangle, and you get very clear about what is most meaningful for you. How do you want to spend your days? What do you want to be doing? What gives you the greatest level of fulfillment and happiness and enjoyment, and where you will feel successful? And then put your business at the bottom. And so what you want to do is you want to create a business model and a structure that supports the lifestyle at the top of that triangle, or at the top of the pyramid. And so what that allows you then to start doing is to make the sacrifices that might be required, because there's always sacrifices and things you have to shift. But now you make those sacrifices within the business, not within your lifestyle, because you'll never hear of somebody who's lying on their deathbed going like, oh, I just wish I worked another hour, or oh, I wish I had another $100,000 or $1 million in my bank account. Like, nobody says that. They say, oh, I wish I spent more time with my spouse or with my kids, or I wish I took that trip that I always thought about. And so by putting your lifestyle at the top, it allows you to ensure that not only are you going to still make great progress in your business, but you're going to also make great progress in your life.
I love it. And the lockdown creates now the opportunity for many of us to redesign exactly this triangle. So it's a great exercise. People listening, if you have a napkin and a pen, just do the triangle and start. How do you want to live your life? By the way, a wonderful book by how will you measure your life? By where is it? The who just died? The Christensen.
Clayton Christensen.
Clayton Christensen. This amazing mind, and that was a lecture he did, a full semester. How will you measure your life? Beautiful thing, where he explores these topics. So, yeah, the triangle. People do it, and now you're writing your book after so many books. Why one more book?
Well, so the future of consulting, I don't know if I'm confident yet to call it a book. It's in the works. It might end up becoming a booklet or a report. I don't want to put more filler and just more pages to make it a more of a formal book. The main thing is to provide value and some of these insights and ideas to people. We've been seeing a very big shift that's happened not only in the consulting world, but again in many industries during COVID times, where there's been an acceleration and a move to digital. That caught a lot of people off guard. Some people were well prepared. But I think what it got us thinking a lot about is now when we're at a stage where we can kind of see the light at the end of the tunnel, we can think about how things might kind of get back to quote unquote normal, or at least not in the COVID world anymore. I think it creates a bit of complacency where it's understandable. Like we just want to get back to doing work, but we've had many economic challenges or collapses. We've had different, pandemics. And so I think this is an opportunity for us to think about how do we future-proof our businesses? How do we actually start to prepare for disruption down the road? Because it's just happened. And of course, we want to likely forget what's happened, but the reality is it'll probably happen again. And so what can people do to not only benefit their businesses today and themselves today, but what steps can they take to prepare for the future? And by seizing some opportunities that are sitting in front of all of us today, not only can we see greater outcomes and results right now because other people aren't seizing them, if we take action on them accordingly, we can actually create better results into the future and then create a significant advantage over those that aren't. And so there's a lot of things that we've been identifying in our own business and in working with many clients, as well as through some interviews and conversations that we've had with other experts and successful people that we've been speaking with. And so these revolve around different business models, different ways of delivering your intellectual property, different ways of structuring your business, and really thinking about what will the future potentially look like, and how can you start taking steps towards that today, again, to not only benefit now, but also well into the future.
Many people listening right now, they are also writing their book. Many of them their first book, many of them their second, the third book, and they are thinking these questions: publisher or self-published, how to promote it, how to sell it, how to make it a successful launch. Now you have so many books. What has worked best for you?
Yeah, I think, I've had these conversations also with a lot of people because we've gone the self-publishing route. I still think about going the trade publication route, and it just depends on what's most important. So I'll give you one example. My last book that I did back in almost a year ago, April of 2020, was called Act Now: How Successful Consultants Thrive During Chaos and Uncertainty. And from having the idea of writing this book, which was all about, and I wrote this book, Simon, because what we saw is a lot of people, this was like right when COVID was so, acute for many people, they were like deer, staring at a car's headlights, just frozen, not knowing what to do. And so this happened through many conversations with clients, and we just saw this in our own business. And so I wanted to write a book and get it out very, very quickly to help people, because I want people to see that there are things that you can do right now to get through this very challenging and uncertain time. And there's no way that I could have gone with a traditional publisher, because it would have taken many, many months, if not a year, right? So literally from concept to having the book on Amazon in Audible and Kindle and paperback versions, we did that all within about 6 weeks.
Wow.
So very, very quick, very rapid. And that to me is one of the great benefits of self-publishing, is that you can get your ideas out to the world very quickly. Now, of course, if you want to reach corporate clients, if you want to, establish yourself in, call them maybe some more established traditional kind of networks or environments, a traditional published book is still very, very powerful. And I think it's a great path for many to take. It just depends on what your goals are. But the main thing is that you get your ideas out there. And I know that one model that a lot of people take now is a hybrid, where you do work with a publisher, but that publisher still gives you a lot more freedom and a lot more access to your rights and to your copyright to use it. So you're not kind of turning everything over as you typically would to a traditional publisher. But again, I think both have value, both have their place. It all comes down to what people ultimately want to achieve in terms of their end result and goal.
And even if we go with the publisher, at the end, the promotion is your main accountability.
Yeah.
How do you plan this time, being a service business that wants to do also business with the book?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question. And I think that's actually one of the biggest shifts that's happened over the years. Back in the day, traditional publishers, right, they would do a lot of the marketing for you. That was one of the main sources of value of going with them. Today, they do very little. They essentially expect that you will do the marketing, and oftentimes they'll only actually say yes to a book if they believe that you can sell the book, that you have the network to do so. What we've done, number one, we have our own list. So we send an email to our list, at least once a week. And that's about 36,000 people. We have our podcast that gets also about 30-some thousand downloads per month. We have social media channels, we have partnerships. And so we use all of these to get our message out there. And so I think through partners, when we shared our Act Now book, many people were very generous in just sharing that. We offered the book for free to people when we first put it out there, just because we wanted them to have access to it. And so again, many generous friends just also offer that to their audiences. So I think that's, relationships and partnerships can be very powerful in helping you to promote your work, but also developing your own list, building your own kind of community. Even though if you're starting today, it might take you some time, the power of that is incredible. And it's a really great asset for you long-term. So that's what we do these days. We really leverage the assets that we have and the relationships we have and the community that we have to get the word out there. And once we do it, it seems to kind of take on a bit of a life on its own. But I would say that, yes, writing the book is, or writing putting the content together is not always the hard part. The promotion itself can actually be incredibly important, because there's a lot of people who have written great books or great content, but they don't promote it, and then no one really hears about it.
3 books that have shaped you most.
Yeah, I was thinking about this, and I read a lot of nonfiction, a lot of business books, but the 3 books that probably influenced me the most were books that I read when I was younger. And so the first book that I ever read, Simon, was called Shogun by James Clavell. And this was the story of, of a non-Japanese coming to Japan and that whole experience there. That's actually the, I'm trying to think, there's a movie, who's the Mission Impossible guy again? I'm blanking on his name right now. You guys will, everyone listening and watching will go, of course, they'll know who I'm talking about, but they did a movie, The Last Samurai movie was essentially the story of Shogun in different words or a bit of different, but that was the first book I ever read. And what's interesting about this book to me is that I didn't read a book, a whole book, until I was probably 15, 16 years old. My whole life when I grew up was sports. All I did was sports. I didn't like school. I didn't spend time reading. And so I was probably one of the last people that you would imagine or think that I would end up actually writing books and creating lots of content. I'm sure my teachers back in the day would they couldn't believe it. But that book for me was actually the first book that I read. And so it was 500 pages long or something, like a big, thick book. But that's what got me drawn into reading and into story. And the second book I read was The Godfather. Again, another thick book. And so you asked for 3 books. So Shogun was one. The second was was Siddhartha. And I remember I found a copy of this book in my high school that they weren't using anymore. It was just tucked in some storage room, and I took it, which I probably shouldn't have, but I took it because there were stack sitting, and I read it and I loved it. And so that was a great book, Siddhartha, for me. And then the other one was The Alchemist, Paulo Coelho, right? Great book. He's written many very powerful books, but for me, these books are they're not about business, but they're about life, and so much about how you think about things can actually alter your trajectory down the path of business and that world. So those are, for me, the 3: Shogun, Alchemist, and Siddhartha.
What are you excited about looking forward with your book and with your business now?
So we've been spending a lot of time continuing to build our team, putting new systems in place, working on the book and sharing that with the world. So for us, that's, as a team collectively right now, we're very focused on working with our clients, building our team, as I mentioned. That's like where my head is focused full time. The other one for me is leadership. It's an area that I haven't maybe spent as much time, working on in the past. Or not maybe as intentionally as I am now. And so that's where I'm personally spending a lot more time, is thinking about leadership and leadership through demonstration, and how to make some adjustments around beliefs that I have or approaches that I take that can have a big impact around hiring and compensation and systems and growth and all that stuff.
Powerful. Where can people stick around to read more about you?
So the home base or kind of headquarters for everything is consultingsuccess.com. And if you go there, you'll be able to find out more about the podcast that we have, all of the books, and we have a lot of free content and resources and studies that we publish as well for people who are in the consulting world and want to grow successful consulting businesses.
Michael Zipursky, everybody, and if you have a consulting business and if you're serious about growing it, call Michael and go through it and read the book, Consulting Mindset. Let me repeat all the books. We have Act Now, The Elite Consulting Mind, Consulting Success, and the next one coming up, The Future of Consulting. Thank you, Michael, for being here. Come back soon.
Thanks, Simon.
Avoid trying to do thousands of things that doesn't work. We have 274 templates for your business success. Reach your ambitious goals with one-on-one sprint coach. We double your revenue in 90 days.